So last time we did the book talk, I read The Seven Silly Eaters, which was a really fun rhyming book. It had a really fun rhyming sequence and really awesome illustrations. So for the four activity centers that we were supposed to do, I did some that related back to rhyming, some that were comparing and contrasting, and others that were kind of a mix of the both. But what I do want to say about the videos that were recommended to helping us complete this project, I loved the idea of organizing everything into a bag. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, we are out of Ziploc bags in my house, so I just have everything neatly stacked on the desk. But I think it's a really easy way for kids to stay organized and for teachers to stay organized, and it's super simple. And if you always have a process like that, then you don't waste time during center changing. And centers can be really fun and really useful for the kids because it targets lots of different learning styles. And so if we're going around in circles, we're not wasting any time with transitioning. It's a really simple, put everything in the bag, zip it up, and when you're done, you can just move on. So that being said, I really, really, really liked that idea. Unfortunately, I can't organize my things that way during my presentation. But just imagine that they're in plastic bags, and I promise it'll make a lot more sense. The station geared towards our higher level readers is a timeline. So they are going to create a timeline and then use the timeline as a guide to writing their little narrative on the back. The standard is write narratives in which they recount a well-elaborated event or short sequence of events, include details to describe actions, thoughts, and feelings, use temporal words to signal event order, and provide a sense of closure. So inside of the bag, they will find a handy-dandy list of their temporal words. So they include first, next, then, after, finally, suddenly, lastly, afterwards, as soon as, meanwhile, eventually, later, in the end, after a while, it all began, and last. So what they would do is turn to the part of the book where the crazy sequence of events begins, and that's when the Seven Silly Eaters decide to make their mom a cake. So they get into the kitchen, and then it says, first Mac's oatmeal turned out lumpy, which made poor Mac turn grin and grumpy. In fact, the lumps got him so cross, he dumped them in Jack's applesauce. This bothered Jack so much he threw it in the dough of Mary Lou, who tossed the mishmash that made straight into Lucy's lemonade. And that put her in such a huff, she poured the icky, sticky stuff into the double frying pan that held the eggs of Flo and Fran, who flung the hodgepodge on the spot into the milk in Peter's pot. So basically, they kind of need to sum up the sequence of events into these 9 little boxes using their temporal words. And then they can either use them here or use them in the end, but the end goal is to have this completely full of a narrative in their own words using these words, recounting the events that happened in the book. So it's great to use a thinking map to help them lay out their thoughts, and then that way they can use it as a reference and plan their writing a little bit better. And this is a great intro to writing, and I think the higher level readers are really going to get it. And it's fun to start with something like this because it's a funny sequence of events, so they're going to remember it. And I love what the video said about the brain always remembering what it sees. And so actually the pictures in here are really going to help them kind of lay out their timeline a little bit more perfectly and pick out the few things that are important, because a lot more than 9 things happen, but they kind of happen, one goes into the other one so perfectly that they're going to have to figure out how to combine and use words instead of next, 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 kind of mix it up with these words that they're given as a guide. Okay, so this activity center is geared towards our medium level readers. And the standard is describe how words and phrases supply rhythm and meaning in a story, poem, or song. So the book Seven Silly Eaters, obviously a ton of rhyming. So this activity in the directions, it says list the words that rhyme on the page in the order given, and then write one word that rhymes with each set. So the way that the page is set up, they have 2 rhyming words, 2 rhyming words, 2 rhyming words, and it relates to the page. And then on the side, it says rhymes with. So, for example, on page 1, Not so long ago, they say, a mother lived just like today. So the two rhyming words would be say and today. Mrs. Peters was her name. Her little boy was named the same. So name and same. Now Peter was a perfect son in every way except for one. So son and one. So it would be, just so you can see it, it would be say today, name, same, son, and one. So it would look like that. And then on the side, it says rhymes with. So say and today could be hey, way. So I'm going to put way. Then name and same, came. Son and one, done. And so there would be a few, and let's just say the centers were 15 minutes or 20 minutes. They would be supplied in the bags, stapled together in different sections. So once they finished one, they could put it in the done pile and then go and grab another one. And that's how the Rhyme Time Activity Center works. The Reading Center designed for our lower level readers is a compare and contrast with the characters. And so they would be provided with 2 of these little web thinking map type of things. And if you look closely, so this is character 1, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characteristics. So does character 2, but they share some. So the idea here would be to select 2 characters. So the first one mentioned is Peter. So Peter was a baby. So you kind of have to guess. You're letting the kids use kind of inferences to guess, but so we're comparing 2 different babies. We're comparing Peter with Lucy. We know that they're both babies. They're young babies, and they're picky eaters. So you would kind of use your background knowledge to locate where you would put these different things. So Peter is a baby, and so is Lucy. Silly eater, his mom describes him as, what a silly sort of eater. So that's both of them. And then mom describes Lucy as small and fair with big blue eyes and curly hair. So small, because she's smaller than Peter, they would put small on the Lucy side. See how I'm kind of doing this? And Peter was particular about his milk. He liked warm milk, so we put that on Peter's side. Warm milk. So then the idea is the students fill out this entire thing. So they've got all the different little bubbles. And then they move to the next sheet, which is character and you. And so this one's kind of fun. So I would list all of the characteristics of the character that you don't find you relate to. So let's say you are big and tall. So if you're comparing yourself to Lucy, you would say Lucy is small where you are tall. Kind of like that. And in the end, you get left with full charts, and you would paste them onto the construction paper, and we would hang these up. And so then the students would have learned comparing and contrasting, and they can compare and contrast themselves to a character. And the standard is to use information gained from illustrations and words in print or digital text to demonstrate understanding of characters, settings, and plot. So again, they could use the pictures too, like Peter has brown hair, so mark brown. And if you're comparing yourself to Peter, you would say, well, I have blonde hair, Peter has brown hair. But if you like warm milk, then you would put warm milk in your little center thing, and you both are picky eaters. You know, you find some similarities and differences, and it's good to make connections to the characters in the story and kind of brings the story more to life. So the station or activity for the English language learners, I couldn't finally decide how I wanted to execute it, so I think I'm just going to present both ways. One's a little bit more time consuming, so I don't know that it would really work as a center, but maybe if you had extra hands that day, it would be a really fun thing. So the really fun thing would be to go through the text and have the students list the ingredients that went into Mama's cake. And then once they have the list, then you can actually make the cake. And there are actually a ton of recipes online that make an actual edible cake based on the ingredients. But if you didn't have time to do that, you could just make them go in the book and write the list of ingredients that went into Mama's cake. And I think it's a great activity for them because it allows them to connect to something at home that's totally familiar. They can say, oh, yeah, my mom cooks or my dad cooks or I've seen grandma in the kitchen. And immediately it just kind of breaks that barrier between this book that's super American with all of its oatmeal and warm milk and homemade pink lemonade. So really just showing them like they were just cooking or they were just trying to make their mom a cake, I think would break the barrier and make them a little bit more interested and comfortable in reading a story like this. But like I said, if you have time to do a cake baking activity, I think that would be so fun and just so real for all of your learners, but English language learners in particular. But if not, hunting for all of the ingredients and making sure that there were 7 chefs, so there needs to be 7 ingredients, would be a super fun activity.